Now, did you see that the health department in the United Kingdom has effectively, well, all but anyway, banned puberty blockers for children? So if there is a child who thinks they're the opposite gender, they will no longer be able to be given drugs to block them from entering puberty. Now, this is the NHS in the United Kingdom. And the reason for this is the NHS has determined that there is simply not enough evidence about how safe puberty blockers are or whether they are clinically effective to justify prescribing them to kids. And I think this is the right thing to do. You tell me, 131873, but I certainly think it's the right thing to do because I've thought a lot about this, I've read a lot about this, and I've been researching it for the last couple of days. Now, if you're a boy or you're born a little boy and you want to wear dresses and play with dolls, go for it. If you're a tomboy, go for it. If you're 18 years old and you want to go down the path of surgeries or hormone drugs or whatever it may be, you are an adult, and that is the decision adults make about their own bodies and their own lives. I will support you with that, and society should support you with that. But I draw the line at children being given drugs to fundamentally alter the path of their physical development. They are children. And these drugs block testosterone and estrogen that lead to puberty-related changes like periods, breast growth, voice deepening, facial hair, things like that. And in some cases, these puberty blockers are then followed by cross-sex hormones to allow people to transition into the gender that they identify with. Now, you're talking about giving sort of 8 or 9-year-old boys and girls drugs with potential long-term impacts on growth spurts, bone growth, bone density, and maybe even fertility. But as soon as you raise these concerns, you're labelled anti-trans. Now, I am not anti-trans. I am just pro-science and pro-facts. And the New York Times did a piece that showed studies that track trans patients' bone strength while using puberty blockers and through the first years of sex hormone treatment found that bone density flatlines when you're on these drugs. And it is bone density during puberty that determines the strength of your bones for the entirety of your life. So the potential here is badly broken bones in your 50s and 60s because of puberty blocking drugs that you took when you were 8 or 9 years old. And there are stories out of America where 11-year-olds have such poor bone density that they're on the same level as someone with osteoporosis, 11 years old. And regardless of all this, the NHS in the UK is deciding the risk is not worth the reward on these drugs. And even with the science, for some reason, we're not open to having a conversation about whether they are appropriate here in New South Wales. New South Wales Health, it's difficult. You have to go through quite a legal process, but puberty-blocking drugs are still offered in health settings here in New South Wales. And the point of all this treatment is to deal with the mental anguish of having gender dysphoria. But again, you're talking about kids. And many of whom, they may end up taking life-altering drugs, and those kids are not trans and will not be trans when they are adults, but they've taken them anyway. And they may well end up with osteoporosis at 11 years old. Now, this is a really hard and cold fact, and it might sound a little insensitive, and I'm not trying to be insensitive here. But if you are a transgender person, the unfortunate fact is your life will be harder than others who are not. Just like if you have autism, or if you're in a wheelchair, or if you lose a limb, if you have mental health battles like I do, life will be more complicated for you. And to be human, I think, is to know that we are all imperfect, yet still whole. And teaching children that it's okay to be imperfect, teaching children that, rather than chemically treating them for imperfections, might be a better way to go. And I'm wondering whether New South Wales Health goes down the same path as the NHS in the UK to think about whether or not these puberty-blocking drugs for children 8, 9, 7 years old are potentially not beneficial and have side effects that are way too risky to be handing out to children of that age.